Alright, welcome to Typology Gifts. I'm Dan.
I'm Adriana.
This is Adriana.
Hi.
And I guess we have a different kind of video this time. And I think I already know your type.
Yeah, so I'm most likely an ENTP, and I feel like it does fit with just generally who I am.
Yeah. And I actually would really agree with that from knowing you. And so how are we gonna do this time? Because normally I just type people and they don't tell me what their type
Should
is.
we first explain how we interlace this video so well? It almost looks like I'm right here.
You are right here. How did that work?
Shouldn't you be wearing a mask?
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, we should explain that probably, right? I drove to where you were, and we've both quarantined and worn masks and been very careful, and we have no symptoms.
He picked me up in a car.
Yes.
Who did that? The flights were like $35 too.
Yeah. So, yeah, we I guess just so you know, we've taken the proper precautions. We're not just ignoring COVID.
Yeah, we met in the dark alleys of COVIDtopia.
Yes. So we've been talking a lot about typology, and I had a typing tonight that was scheduled, and then that person was like, "Well, I live in the UK, and I didn't realize what time you were gonna do the video," and so they canceled, and then you were like, "But I want you to type me or do a video," and I was like, "Okay." And then we just spent the last hour struggling to get this setup working. So here we are.
This is our free flowing motions.
Yes, we're keeping it free flowing.
So tell me, let's get a little bit know about you.
Sure. What would you like to know?
Which type is the most likely you'd like to get in a fight with them?
Well, if I want to get in a fight with the type, I probably want to win, right?
Okay.
So do I want
tell
the
me
one
who you most likely. Which type could you beat up, and which type would you want in a fight with you?
Like on my team?
Oh, or which type could I beat up, maybe?
Well, you're like a feral animal, so I think you could probably take on almost any type, probably. The type that I think I could take, wow, that's a tough one. It would probably be a very empathetic type.
Well, let's do 3 battles: a physical, a mental, and an emotional battle.
Oh, okay, okay. It's got a whole lot more complicated. Let's see, physical. Well, if I was gonna take somebody physically, I'd probably want to fight an intuitive, because I figure they probably haven't aren't as in tune with their body, and it will probably be more of an equal match for me, because I'm not very physically inclined to fight. So maybe an INFP or something like that. But I don't know, INFPs, they could be pretty scrappy, maybe. I don't know. Maybe an ISFJ, actually. ISFJ would probably take it easy on me, I think.
Yeah, they'd feel sorry for you.
Yeah, they would feel sorry, or they'd beat me up, and then they would take care of me after they beat me up, and then everything would be fine.
That's cute.
Yeah. What were the other ones? Mental and emotional? Is that what the two were?
Yeah.
So intellectual, is that what I mean?
Yeah, so who would you want mentally on your side?
Oh wait, I didn't tell you who I'd want physically on my side, I guess, right? Do I have to, what order are we doing this in? Freeform? Okay, so I'd definitely want somebody who's uses a lot of extroverted sensing, so it probably would be an ESTP or an ISTP, somebody like that, who's spends a lot of time working on their body, knows their body well, can move around really fast, that kind of thing. Yeah. Intellectually, who could I take intellectually? Which of the types could I take?
Well, mental support at the very least.
Oh, wait. Support or am I battling them?
Okay,
is it a battle of wits?
Okay.
Is that what it is?
So let's recap.
Okay.
In a physical fight,
sure.
You think you could beat up who?
Well, I thought INFP maybe.
he can beat up INFP.
I don't know. That's just my guess. Because I don't know. I mean, well, I think the INFP would be too nice to fight against me, and then I would just like.
Yeah, you just you'd be
Hitler was an INFJ, so I mean, like it's clearly INFJs can throw down if they need to. Yeah.
and recap, who did you say you would want physically on your side?
An STP for sure.
An STP.
Yeah, because they would be ready to go like right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're feeling it.
Uh-huh.
And then, so now that we're moving on, who would you mentally want on your side?
Mentally on my side, I mean, I think you're good. You're good. Your type. If you're an ENTP, I think you're an ENTP.
So you bring me to your rap battle.
Maybe, yeah, because you're smart, but also you're very flexible with your intuition. You can come up with a lot of ideas and things on the spot, and that's good. That's what you need for that. For those reflexes, intellectual reflexes.
So mentally, you'd want a NTP on your side.
Probably that would be a good choice. I've collaborated with a lot of NTPs intellectually, and that was always successful.
And who would you want to rap battle against?
Oh,
who would you want to write poetry in lieu of?
Like an SI dominant, like an ISTJ or an ISFJ, probably. Just because, and I wouldn't even say that I could do a rap battle, but I mean I'd want somebody who's worse than me, right? That's the idea. Is like I don't have to actually be good. I just have to be better than someone else, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I would pick somebody with dominant introvert sensing, because even though they can use extroverted intuition, I think they would struggle with a new situation. I think they would be like, I've never been in this situation before. I don't know what to do here. Come up with new ideas, whatever. So at least I would come up with my rhymes beforehand. That's what I would do. I would spend my time figuring out what I was going to say, and then I would show up and just look at it from the corner of my eye and pretend like I was doing it in real time. That's what I think I would do.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then we're moving on to the most important one. Not depends on how you feel about it. Emotionally, who do you want to take care of you emotionally?
Well, you obviously no. So you mean wait? Isn't it supposed to be like
in a fight? Who am
I gonna?
Okay, you could approach this two ways.
Like, is this who am I gonna hurt?
You can either say, I guess emotionally has kind of three assets to it. So tell me who you would want to mentally support you, or my bad. Who would you like to emotionally support you?
Mm-hmm.
Who would you like to emotionally dish out against your enemies? And who would you like to emotionally dish out against? And maybe even just to add it off,
yeah.
Who would you least like to emotionally dish out against you?
Oh, jeez. I hope you got all those memorized.
I do.
Okay.
So the first one is, who would you like to help you dish it out emotionally?
To dish it out emotionally?
Yeah.
So this is like, I've come to a...
You're picking a friend to help you...
An emotional rap battle?
Yeah. No, you're picking a friend to help you, like, bully someone.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, they deserve it.
They deserve it?
Yeah, they've done things, unspeakable war crimes.
Uh-huh.
Let's get them.
Well, I think so. For that to happen, I think that whoever that type is, they'd have to be really good at hurting someone's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time thinking that there's any better type for that than perhaps an INTJ. So that might be what I pick there. I don't know. My brother is an INTJ. It was like the INTJs I know. They don't necessarily use that superpower like a lot. But I'm just saying, like, they do seem to know exactly how to hurt somebody's feelings if they really wanted to, just because they seem to know how to do that. I don't know. And they probably are the kind they'd be okay using it, but I don't know, maybe I don't think the INTJs watching will be that offended by that. I don't think. Other types might, if they might be like that. That's so mean. I think the INTJs would be like, who cares?
And with that being said, after we take a drink, on your side,
on my side,
who would you want supporting you? This is your second teammate. One started to dish it out. Who would you want?
This is the
building
is
you
this
back
a shoulder
up?
that I'm crying?
Yeah,
on?
shoulder to cry on. Who can build you back up? Or you can choose between
them. That's a tough one. Honestly, I mean, ISFJs are very good for that. I mean, my best friend's an ISFJ, and he's very emotionally supportive. And if there's one thing the ISFJs have going for them, they're very stable and very supportive and very kind and just always there, always good. Always good for support. Yeah, and love. That's what I would pick.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Who do you know any ISFJs?
Yeah, my best friend.
Yeah.
We've been friends for like 19 years. And we're like peanut butter and jelly. We get along really well. And
that sounds yummy.
there's been time exactly. We make a tasty sandwich. Yeah. And there's been times where things went bad and I called him up late at night and he's just there. He's always there for me.
There when you need a friend.
Exactly.
Exactly what you need for a emotional rap battle.
Exactly. Exactly. So wait, what is there another one or two?
Yeah, there's two more.
Two more? What were they?
But
first, a word from our sponsors.
A word from our sponsors. No, I'm taking another drink.
A word from drinks. All right. What
basically, while you're drinking, the third person who you're picking out is the person who you believe as your type. You could most effectively emotionally destroy.
Oh boy. It depends on how well I know the person. I think if it was just a stranger, that could be different, I guess. See, I wouldn't want to emotionally destroy somebody, but like...
They killed children.
Oh, they killed children?
Yeah.
Well, they're probably already pretty emotionally messed up already. But let's just say that I desired revenge, I guess. I don't know. That's a hard one. Do I have to answer that one? Maybe another INFJ. I don't know. Like maybe I would. Maybe if it was an INFJ that killed children, I would be like, that was reprehensible. You're an awful person. You should never feel good about yourself for the rest of your life. You're a disgrace to humanity.
Oh my god.
And you need to go live in a hole and die somewhere.
Aww.
Maybe that's what I would say.
So
is that brutal enough?
He could beat up an INFJ.
I don't know.
Emotionally.
I just know how I think, anyways, and I think if I hurt if somebody came to me and said like, you hurt somebody, that would upset me.
Yeah. One knows how to destroy themselves.
maybe. That's very wise of you to say.
Yeah. And then the last.
What's the last one?
Your last enemy.
Yeah.
Of your enemy team. Who would you? And this is slightly like the first, maybe the first or second question, or the first question. But who would you least like to dish out specifically against you? Like, who do you think could tear you up the most?
Well, the ones that I've had the hardest trouble with were the ones that were trying to control me. So that's like the STJs and stuff. But it's not to them it's not emotional. To me it gets emotional. So that's probably like that's probably the best answer I can get. But if it was like a type that was like trying to emotionally hurt me or something, like I'm guessing they're bullying me, right? Probably.
Yeah, they're trying to bully.
They're trying to bully me.
Like I say war crimes and rap battles, but it's
Yeah.
really like you're in a situation, two groups of friends collide and they must destroy each other.
Right. They must. They must. And I'm trying to find the one to avoid, right? Cause
Yeah,
like,
you're trying to find the
one.
guy who like I don't want to mess with that guy because
Yeah.
I know he could beat me up. Like I at least want this guy to try to emotionally mess me up.
I'm pretty emotionally resilient. That's the thing. I think the STPs, like an STP that was not an ISTP, probably like either an ESTP or.
And you said something about the J's.
Well, yeah, ESTJ, but I don't know that ESTJs would be able to emotionally hurt me. I think maybe ESFJ perhaps could, and it would be more like guilt. It would be like a guilt thing. They would be like doing their best to guilt me, and it would work because I can feel very, very guilty about just about anything. So that would be how they would win. They would make me feel really bad about what I'm doing, and then I would just not be able to continue because I feel so bad. That's probably my answer. Were you satisfied by that?
Yeah.
I hope our viewers
So
at home were satisfied.
Officially, you know your type. Could you could you beat him up? Could you beat me up?
Comment in the comments.
Comment in the
Subscribe in the
comments.
subscribe button.
Dan says no one can emotionally hurt me. Go ahead and do it.
Don't hurt me, please.
Please don't. We're
Okay,
very
let's talk
fragile.
about you now. Let's talk about you.
Okay.
Because, like, I think I know what type you are, but we have the thing up on the screen. We should use this, right? Should we use this? So, okay, let's just try to narrow this down a little bit, okay? So tell me, let's see, what's a good starter question that I like to ask? Would you say that you are more proactive or reactive?
Proactive or reactive? I feel like I generally maybe set out to do things. I feel like if I wait for something to hit me in the face, maybe it's too late.
Okay. Okay. And like, how far ahead do you think you go, like planning wise?
Planning wise, it's kind of spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds like really like.
No, that's everybody's different, right? I mean.
Yeah, I guess generally like I wait, and really the last moment. I make plans at the last second, and then, but I do make plans. I don't shoot into things without knowing, I guess, but I do want to, just shoot things as they come at me. Don't plan too early, but don't plan too late, I guess.
Okay. Well, I notice you like to keep the window open sort of till the last possible minute, in a sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like the window of opportunity? Because you're like, I won't know until the last possible. You told me something like that. I won't know until the moment comes.
That is true. I'm very much like a don't know kind of person until the last second. I do wait until the last second for everything. So I guess that you could say that's reactive. That's really interesting because I'm not really sure what that means.
Well, for our viewers at home, I will tell you what I think that means, and basically what I've learned that I think it means. When so do you know what these little bubbles are? Do you know what all this stuff is here? What is this stuff?
What is it? Oh.
Do you have any idea what that is? Should we zoom in a little bit?
I've never seen a bubble.
A bubble. It's a bubble. Do you know what these things are? What do these things mean?
This means Myers-Briggs.
Sure.
Still alive today.
It's still alive today after 50 plus years. Despite being probably too archaic, but it's fun to look at anyways. This is something called the cognitive stacks, and it's called by other names, but generally you could Google cognitive stacks, And this, for me, was really important for understanding the differences in, they call them like, I've heard them referred to as like attentional directions or something like that. This has to do with your conscious attentiveness. So you're thinking about certain things consciously, I'm thinking about certain things consciously, and we're also interfacing with the world a certain way. And so it's kind of like handedness, like you might be left-handed, I might be right-handed, or so on. And maybe also feet too, like you might put one sock on one foot and then another sock on the other foot. Like it might be different than your hands, who knows? For whatever reason, you know what I mean? That's just how your brain works. So what this kind of theory that has come out from, MBTI and a lot of other people who have thought about this is they've come up with this idea of, well, there's certain of these attentional directions that people prefer in a certain order of usage. So it might be that, and each of these things has its own kind of definition or like understanding, like accepted understanding. But you can see, like, if you look at, like, let's just look at INFJ here. So you have the inner world and the outer world. Pardon me while I yawn. It's late. Yeah, take a yawn break, everybody. There you go. You need a yawn? Yeah, you need a yawn break? Okay. So the inner world being, it's all inner world if you think about it, but I mean, like, the reality is once you start to interface with the real world, then it becomes kind of the outer world, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. So in that sense, according to MBTI, if somebody retreats sort of inwardly first whenever they're interacting with somebody, then they're in the MBTI world considered an introvert. Now, does that necessarily mean that they're stereotypically an introvert? Maybe not, But the idea is that they're checking in somehow internally before interfacing with the world. So if you'll notice, all these introverted ones, these I's, all have their first cognitive function on the left side in the inner world. And then if you look at all the extroverts here, you'll notice they have them all on the right side, on the outer world. So the reason I ask if you are proactive or reactive, if you think about it, if you are using cognitive functions that are faced outwardly, you are interacting with the world as your primary way of being. So you're reacting to the world, you're interacting with the world. But if you're proactive, that must mean that you are doing something internally first before you interact with the world. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So introverts generally are more proactive than extroverts because they're spending more time in their head and figuring out what they're doing, and they might have different processes for how they're doing that, but that's what they're doing first. So I'm very proactive.
Excuse me if I'm being silly.
No, that's fine.
You mentioned planning.
Yes.
Is planning a more reactive thing or?
No, planning is definitely a more proactive thing. Because you are pro before act. You are before acting. You are thinking about what you're going to do before you do it, or you're simulating. And everybody does it. I mean, it's just a matter of how much you prefer to do it first. Like all these other types here. So the idea here is that everybody interfaces with the world. I'm interfacing with the world right now. I'm taking a drink of water.
Sip.
But then also there's
This
stuff
is
going.
also water.
And then but there's stuff going on behind the scenes in my head. So that's happening at the same time. I'm interacting with the world and I'm doing stuff in my own head at the same time. So so even if you are on this side of it where you're reactive for the most part, or more often than not, that doesn't mean you're not planning ahead. Doesn't mean you're not being proactive. It just means generally you're preferring to be more reactive before you decide to be proactive. But then there's other cases where you are going to be proactive. So if a human isn't able to be proactive, their life isn't going to be, they're not going to live very long. Because you have to be able to somehow be able to plan to some degree of what you're going to do ahead of time. If you just never, I think we're ringing. Bing bong bing, bing bong bing.
Excuse me.
You're going to edit this video, right? Anyways, maybe.
Let's just throw it up like this.
Yeah, why not?
We just seem like total humans.
Humans of this earth.
Not real humans, though.
No.
Getting called for once and not answering.
Yeah. So what thoughts did that give you? What did that make you think?
I feel like it kind of explained a bit, like, around, and I see on this chart that, secondly, is thinking is on the list, right? And I don't mean to jump ahead of where you're going.
No, that's fine. Let's jump there.
But I feel like I can see what you're saying, and it makes sense that, like, kind of what I was saying about waiting till last, definitely planning, but waiting until I have to start the plan.
Yeah.
Because, and a lot of times when people are asking me what we should do, I will say, like, give me a second, let me think about it.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't have, like, a very, like, outward thinking process.
Yeah. You're describing.
Like, it's like I don't, like, think with people. I think with myself,
right.
And then show people, like, a plan.
Yeah, that's how I am too. I mean, I do like to collaborate with people, and I do like to ideate with people and things. But
I made a Google Doc for this video.
Right, that's true. Right, and I do things like that too. I think introverted thinkers. So there's this cognitive function here. You see thinking. And introverted thinking would be if the blue oval is over here on the left-hand side, then that means that there's a preference to spend more time. Now notice that it's not entirely over the line. You see how there's some that goes over into extroverted thinking? So it's not to say that any given type doesn't do internal or external. Like I'm sure there's times where you ideate with other people, or where you check what an expert has to say, or look at a set of guidelines or rules or something. But that's just maybe not how you want to typically go about solving problems. It might just be something you do as part of the research process, right?
That makes sense.
Whereas somebody who does a lot of extroverted thinking, like an ESTJ or ENTJ or INTJ, it's not that they're not spending time, like, thinking about things, because they obviously are, and you can see all of these types use introverted thinking too, but it's more like they trust the extroverted thinking more, and they use it more, so they rely on it more because they're more accustomed to using it. So an ENTJ, for example, if given the opportunity to spend an afternoon thinking about, like, thinking their way through how to solve some kind of problem, they might just go look at a book, or go look at an article, or go consult some expert or something like that, because they see the value of leadership and of expertise and skill and things like that, and they look at that and say, that makes a lot of sense, I'm going to trust that. And that's a value judgment that they're making. That's introverted feeling. They're using in a sense, using their feelings to say, I trust what this expert has to say. But they in a way, they kind of shortcut past some of the spinning that you or I might do, where we're just trying to reinvent the wheel every time in many cases. And maybe we would benefit from going and trusting the experts sometimes, but it's hard for us to do that, maybe. So that's kind of the difference, I think, that I've noticed between introverted thinking and extroverted thinking. They're both about problem solving and logic and like organization and things like that. But an extroverted thinker prefers like protocols. They like to see a list. They like to go step one, step two. They want to work towards a goal and like and work it through. And they want to look for things that are tried and true and proven methods and things like that. Versus always having to reinvent the wheel or always having to find a new logical paradigm or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh wait. So, well, that's yeah. I do.
Is that baking your noodle, by the way?
Yes, I am. My noodle is baked because it makes me have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Number one, I feel like that does kind of explain why, like, my internal thought process kind of makes me, like I was debugging like a Discord bot, and I ended up, writing like a program for it.
Right.
All these other things that it could.
You had this problem to solve, and then you were like, I'm gonna do all these other
yeah, and
things.
ended up in me installing Python and all other
right.
sorts of nonsense.
Right.
Just to get back to like, I don't know, adding reaction.
Right.
So I do see that. Like, I think you said reinventing the wheel for.
Yeah.
But that also brings me to my second point, which
Mm-hmm.
is I see that a lot of these have little to no thinking.
What do you mean, though?
Okay, so let's say ISFP.
I mean, everyone has, if you notice, there's a blue bubble on every single one
Yeah.
of these. It has more to do with how often or how regularly do you rely on introverted or extroverted thinking to solve your problems or to live your daily life. It doesn't mean you don't think.
Yeah, no,
or that you're
I
dumb.
didn't think that.
No, I know. I just so could you elaborate?
So
what
tell
did
me
you
more
mean?
about ISFPs and INFPs.
INFPs, yeah.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
just in the context of they're mostly feeling inside themselves
Yeah.
and their intuition. So it's like they have feelings
Mhm.
and then they create a plan, or let's say an INFP specifically,
Mhm.
they have feelings on the inside and then they'll make a plan
Mhm.
on the outside to deal with that.
Yes. Or an INFP may not necessarily create a plan based on their feelings. It depends. Because they use extroverted intuition a lot, they may the feelings the whole introverted feeling thing is you'll see like in MBTI writing they'll talk about a lot about values, like what do you value. It's value judgment, basically. It's like saying this is more important than that, and you could say that that's feelings, and it kind of is, you know what I mean, but it has something to do with it's like feelings. There's logic there too, but it's kind of like,
Trusting your gut.
Yeah, it is a gut thing. It is an emotional thing.
I guess that's kind of intuition.
It is. It can be an intuition.
I guess
thing.
everything's kind of trusting your gut.
Well, an intuitive might say that. A sensor might not say that. I think somebody who prefers sensing would probably say you gotta trust in reality, or you gotta trust in what your senses are telling you, or you gotta trust your experience, or trust logic or something.
But who would tell you can't trust the system?
Intuitives are probably more likely to say you can't trust the system, I think, because they would be less happy with status quo and doing things the way they've always been done. I think intuitives are good at imagining a better environment, a better solution, a better future. So they may be less satisfied with the way things are.
But a sensing can make cool games like Cyberpunk.
No, there's probably a lot of really smart sensors and intuitives working on video games, I think. And I think if you looked at like what kinds of games would sensors versus intuitives make, think about that. Like I would imagine, like let's say for example, the Sim City games. What do you think? Do you think the Sim City games would be more likely to be created by an intuitive or created by a sensor?
I think I'm gonna guess intuitive. But
Okay, why would you guess
be,
intuitive?
I could be completely opposite, but like
Mhm.
it's very much a planning thing,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like as if you were like the same mayor over like what is most likely like hundreds of acres.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like just from what I know, it's like very planning oriented.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
you, and like you said, an idealistic future. You know, like everyone knows that like you can't have like one omnipresent God that can get like
Right.
pretty much like extremely favorable loans. You know, to
Right.
create a city. But
Well,
I could be the exact opposite.
So I'll tell you my theory. And by the way, I think the beauty of a game, like a beauty of any game, is that whether a sensor or intuitive creates it, a sensor or intuitive could play it.
Yeah.
And I think you're an intuitive probably. You would probably play a game like SimCity differently than a sensor probably would. Maybe I would think. But to me, I think the SimCity games maybe might have been created by sensor or because it's very concrete. It's very like it's a city. It's a real place. There's real buildings. There's real resources you have to deal with, like money, and there's nothing abstract really about it. There's nothing metaphorical. It's not an allegory for SimCity isn't an allegory for something. It's really literally just you are the mayor and you're building a city, right? So it's pretend, but I mean like it doesn't take a lot of imagination. In fact, they do a lot. Like Flight Simulator might be another example of a game created by sensors because it
deals with real mechanics.
It's real things. It's real mechanics. It's very concrete. It's very real world. And the people who would be very good at creating something like that would know a lot about the real world and like would have a lot of experience with like perhaps physics and but it's not to say that there wouldn't be intuitives working on those games. So that's my guess anyways. But then like if you took, let's say, the Stanley Parable or I don't know if you know what that have you played that one?
I love the Stanley Parable.
I would say that's probably
I liked finding the weird like endings and just like glitching through stuff.
So how
they always had a thing.
How literal is the Stanley Parable of a game? How literal do you think it gets?
It's not very literal. Like I mean, it has a narrator which makes you believe it's going into a literal place.
Right. But
everything's
everything's not what it seems, right?
The whole point is that the whole point is kind of showing you that you make the meaning out of the game.
Right.
And if you go into a game like looking for meaning like this, it can ruin certain types of games.
Yeah. So
because like the meaning of the game changes with every ending.
Right.
And they try to tell you it means something else every time.
Right. And so to me, that focus on meaning is like something an intuitive would do, like because they would be like, it doesn't matter that the game isn't about shooting things. The game isn't about bullet count, and the game isn't about building something. It's literally just about what does life mean, or what does the story mean,
or at the very least, what does gaming mean?
What does gaming mean? Like those kinds of kind of abstract questions, and using an art form to try to, if not answer them, at least add something to the conversation and give players some kind of abstract experience. That just seems to me like something an intuitive would do. So that might maybe give some kind of clarity as to like.
Yeah, I really like the Stanley Parable.
It has a great game, yeah. So let's see here. So what about sensing? What about extroverted sensing and introverted sensing? I don't know if you are familiar with those two things.
And introverted sensing.
Yeah. Or did you want to talk more about ISFP and INFP? You had a question about logic and stuff, right?
Okay. Well, I was just thinking. I was thinking about their thinking, I guess.
Yeah. You were thinking, how did they think, right?
Yeah. Well, if metacognition is thinking about your own thinking, what is thinking about other people's thinking?
Maybe psychology? I don't know.
Yeah. Xenocognition.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do some xenocognition on our ISFP friends, right?
Our ISFP friends.
So we went back to saying maybe not quite planning, but an INFP takes in their feelings.
Yeah.
They, you know, they create the best way for them to navigate the world through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me more about what an ISFP would do. Say, like, let's say an ISFP has a feeling they're gonna say lose their job.
Right.
What would the ISFP do differently from an INFP?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. The ISFP probably saw it coming a lot sooner than the INFP did because they're using introverted intuition more. So they might be thinking more conclusively about situations, and they might have a strong intuition that it's coming, that they're going to lose their job. So the way they might react differently is that the ISFP might possibly have been preparing a little bit for it because they might have seen it coming. The INFP might have been caught off guard by that because their extroverted intuition keeps all those possibilities open, and maybe they have an instinct that they're going to lose their job, but maybe they're afraid to be so conclusive about that and think, oh, well, yeah, that's definitely going to happen. Like maybe they say, well, I could lose my job, but there could be these other things that could happen and whatever. Or maybe they get locked into the feeling that I don't like how that makes me feel. Now I'm going to kind of dwell in that, and potentially get, I think for an INFP, maybe get lost in the past, get lost in the situations they've been in up to this point that caused them to have trouble with losing their job, and maybe it becomes a cycle of I'm so hurt by this, and now I have to think about all of the bad things that happened up to me up to this point that made me feel like I'm in this position, and they might feel locked into it, sort of like they don't know how to navigate that. But maybe they use their extrovert intuition to sort of figure it out, and maybe they can establish a better relationship with someone and keep their job, or who knows what. But they'll feel it out as they kind of get there, as they go through that. Whereas an ISFP might be able to, it really probably depends on the ISFP or the INFP, like Stephen Colbert is an INFP, you know what I mean? So like there's some very like influential, successful INFPs out there who maybe would be developed enough as their type to be able to negotiate a situation like that better than other ones would. But an ISFP who might lose their job, it would probably be a very upsetting thing for them, but I think they would probably, with that extroverted sensing, they would probably begin to start acting on it and start doing something about it, and perhaps looking at other jobs, or trying to salvage the job, or work through it, or figure out a way to get through it. That's what I'm thinking.
So let's open it up to another battle.
Okay.
Who do you think would be, of this list, who do you think would be the best at figuring out first that they were probably going to lose their job? Of all the types.
Out of all the types? Well, they would all find it, I think they would all figure that out differently. So it depends on, like, it would be hard for me to say which ones could know it. Like, perhaps the ENTJ would find it out because they're the one running the company and they know the financial situation of everyone in the company, and maybe they would be the last to lose their job because they're the last, the captain goes down with the ship, right? So maybe they would know first, an INFJ might see it coming like a long way off. Like I've experienced what I call I'd say the blood is in the water. I would say like it's kind of like the sharks are there. There's a droplet of blood. There's no turning back. The sharks are gonna arrive, and like anytime I felt that way about the situation, it's been pretty good that my intuition was right. I think INTJs probably would have that sense as well, but I'm not sure. Let's see. As far as other ones, I think extroverted intuitives would probably be more caught off guard by it. than introverted intuitives generally, I think, because I think introverted intuitives would probably be considering the probabilities more than the possibilities. I think extroverted intuitives would say, well, there's many possibilities, and this could be this, could be that. Guess we'll see when we get there. Introverted intuitives might run those simulations and say, this is this percent likely to happen, and that's that percent likely to happen, and that's, and really kind of try to narrow it down and figure out, all right, well, I think the most likely thing to happen is this, and then they'll start to plan a course of action based on that narrowed down understanding of what they think is going to happen.
Wait, and can I flip it on its head
Yeah,
for a second?
flip it on its head.
Which of the types, and of course you can diversify if you'd like,
Sure.
do you think would be the best on the other side of that news, telling someone they're going to be fired?
Like, who's gonna now?
Who would be the
say
best at firing someone?
who's the best at firing, from the standpoint of not hurting the people's feelings who get fired, or
I guess that does depend. Tell me about the variations.
well, if you're the company and you want these firings to happen efficiently, you know.
Efficiently, and let's start with efficiently and at the least cost to the company.
Yeah, and what about at the what? How much do we care about the emotional fallout of what's happening?
For the first one,
not at
no
all?
remorse.
No
We
remorse.
don't care. The only thing we're trying to prevent is lawsuit.
Okay, so probably like an ISTJ, I think, in that case. So an ISTJ would be very good at like taking the orders from the boss and saying, okay, these are the people going to get cut. It's just business, and I understand why. I've got all my reasons why, and it's all laid out and figured out. Call the people in, get it over with, move on, and don't think twice about it.
Okay, who is the most likely to not quite like take like maybe take not like quite like take joy in like firing someone, but would have no problem with it and is more likely to catch a lawsuit just because they want to, you're fired somebody.
Well, I think the ISTJ would probably be more or less not trying to be an absolute like dick about it, but
I could sense that.
It's possible though that they could come across that way. They could come across as callous or uncaring. I don't think they probably think they would be that way. I think that's just how they would come across. An ESTJ might be more likely to be just like, you know what, this is how it is, like, peace out, like, and just be a bit more like brash about it, perhaps, or like outwardly kind of deal with it, sort of. As far as other ones, I mean, I think any type would care about that if it was a company they care about or they work at, even if you could say stereotypically certain types like extroverted thinkers might be the ones who are carrying that directive out. It depends from person to person. Like like just because somebody's an ESTJ doesn't mean that they're going to be an unfeeling person or that they're not going to care. But it could mean that they're prioritizing the business over those things. And it's just sort of an all things considered sort of situation. Well, all things considered, the business is important, making your money is important, living, achieving your goals is important, and so on. And down here is how I feel about it. It's just business. So those kinds of people, I don't know that any type would necessarily just be automatically antagonistic to people losing their job. It really probably would depend on the person. If the person is just a callous person, then it's probably not about type at that point. Because you could probably take any of these types
and they could give a bad delivery.
They could give a bad delivery for different reasons. Like maybe an INTP would be very withdrawn and not be willing to divulge all the reasons why it's happening, or to be upfront. Maybe they'd be evasive. Maybe an INFJ would probably be, I think, very understanding and very kind about it, but maybe would be too much of a pushover, or maybe would have a hard time emotionally handling doing that. So there's different types would have different kinds of struggles, I think, in that scenario. That's my thinking. Yeah.
Interesting.
Thinking.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's let's think of more battles.
Battles? You're all about the battles.
This is type battles.
Type battles.
I'm Adriana, and welcome to Type Battles.
Yes, welcome to Type Battles.
Have you ever seen what is it called, like Time Warriors or whatever?
I'm not sure.
Well, basically, I forget the exact name of the show, but it's like, they basically play like a modified version of like Total War, the game. If you've heard of that.
Yeah, I think. I
And
know.
like,
is that like Warhammer?
Yeah, like they've made a Warhammer version of it before.
Okay.
But it's like total, like just like they're basically like military simulations, whatever.
Yeah.
And they have like basically usually they have like two families like face or like just one family face off against a computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like they have like one of the family members is like a or two of the family members are like captains and two are like the generals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the generals kind of tell like basically like what the game plan is, and they tell their commanders. Like they tell their commanders what to do, and the commanders have only like control over a few units, and then they basically they tell the units what to do via like the person operating the game. That was a long.
That's a good setup. Now, what's the question? Where do we go from there?
From there,
Yeah.
we generally say that. I didn't know where I was going with that.
Really?
No,
Really?
not
Oh. Did we just have a improvisation moment there?
Yeah.
This is extroverted intuition at work right here. That's a good example, because you didn't know beforehand what you were going to drive at, right? You just kind of were trying to find your way there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess there's plenty of questions that could come out of that. But
yeah,
what kind of types do you think are more of the general type?
Mm-hmm.
More of an overarching plan, and can communicate that to others, and who are, when it comes to, delegation, who is better working with just small amounts of people, and but being able to get them to do what the higher ups say.
Good question. That's a good question. I can't help but think that all the ones that prefer a lot of extroverted thinking are the general types, like the ENTJ, ESTJ, even INTJ can be, and maybe to a lesser degree ISTJ. So these four corners here, but really these bottom two, because extroverted thinking is very much like how you would, how you spent your time like trying to solve that Discord problem, and you went and you went and installed this environment, and you went and did this and you did that research, right? Well, extroverted thinkers do that kind of problem solving, but like out in the real world. So they're like moving people around, and they're like making protocols, and they're like doing things actively with strategies to get to the same kind of thing you were trying to get to in your own head. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you think about it, that's like being a general, kind of like that's that extroverted like logic of using your logic in a way that's in the real world, and that's affecting other people and plans and strategy and things like that.
So what do you think Julius Caesar was?
I don't know enough about Julius Caesar.
He's a very famous commander, and like
yeah, but I don't know I didn't know enough about his the way he was to have a guess.
He allowed himself to be assassinated because he was suffering from cancer.
Yeah, he allowed himself to get assassinated?
Yeah. He was warned several times, and we have historical evidence
he
knew that he was basically going to his own assassination.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think that tells us what type he is. I just think that tells us he wanted to die. He had enough. Okay, but to answer your other question, though, that you asked a little bit earlier, which was, so who are the ones that are probably good at carrying it out, right?
Yeah.
Like the foot soldiers, I guess? Well, the ones that use extroverted thinking a lot, too, but lower in preference, are probably still going to be pretty good at the whole, like, organizing and managing people and, like, telling them what to do and finding the battle plan and figuring out the strategy and like and and uh, and just making it happen. Like making the plan a success. So ISTJs, INTJs. If I look at the list here, you even have like ENFPs. ENFPs can be really good at that as well. It might sound like that might sound like left field compared to the stereotype, but ENFPs do use a lot of extrovert thinking, and they make great like CEOs. Even they can make great entrepreneurs. They're very good at they can be very great at leading people or motivating people or getting people excited. They would use their extroverted thinking in a different way than a more commanding type would.
Mm-hmm.
They would use their extroverted thinking in a way where they're how can I say it? They're kind of working with the resources that they have and working with their own values to find the way to go forward that excites them, and then other people see that excitement and then that motivates them.
They get a bandwagon.
Yeah, they get the bandwagon together.
Well,
That's right. Yeah, and they're extroverts, so they're good at they're good at talking to people. They're good at being around people. They want to be around people. They want to be engaged with people all the time and stuff. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Tell me an insight you've had about any type.
About any type?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have
Single a
types.
type out and give me an insight.
Well, what's a type we haven't talked about yet so far? ESFPs? ESFJs? Do you know much about extroverted feeling versus introverted feeling?
I don't. So, wait. So, extroverted feelings. So, would you say, like, just listening to that, it kind of sounds like one bottles their emotions and one is not to say, like, I can't think of any, but maybe like a drama queen, or not quite, but like everyone knows exactly what they're feeling.
Kind of. Yeah, it's
sorry.
No.
Yes,
Yeah, extroverted feelers can be seen as more drama queen-y type people, for sure. But there are introverted feelers also that use a lot of introverted feeling. Generally extroverted feeling is seen more of a drama. Like it's kind of like if when it comes to extroverted feelers, I've noticed, and as being one myself even, is I like to think of it. I came up with this metaphor actually to think about it. It's kind of like if I preferred introverted feeling a lot more, I would be like, this is my unique purple shade. Like imagine I had a clear bottle and I had like sparkly purple liquid inside of it, right?
Yeah.
Some liquid, and like other people were like trying to pour their colored liquid into mine, and I'm just like, no, this is mine. Like, stay away from me. Like, this is my liquid. It's my unique liquid. But an extroverted feeler is almost like they have their bottle out and it's just sort of there. It has their own liquid, but then other people just sort of come and pour their own in there as well, and it sort of becomes this amalgam of like everyone's liquid.
Wow.
That's how I think of it, anyways.
They're a bag of feelings.
They're a bag of feelings. I mean, they're both using a lot of feelings, but like introverted feelers keep a very strong division line between their feelings and everyone else's feelings. So there's a very sense of individuality when it comes to their own feelings.
So would you say extroverted feelers are more empathic?
Not inherently, but they are engaging with people's feelings more externally, so it's more visible, I guess. But there are INFPs, ENFPs are both prefer introverted feeling. and they are often seen as very empathic kind of people. Um, it just depends on kind of where that feeling is in the preference, and then it can differ, because like an INFP, the way an INFP might be empathic might be different than the way an ENFJ would be empathic, because an ENFJ, as an extroverted feeler, like Oprah Winfrey's an ENFJ,
Yeah, sure.
and you know how Oprah feels about stuff when she's up there, when she's talking to people. Like, she's very open with her feelings, right? And she's very interactive with her feelings.
So I see that the extroverted feelers are also J's, right? So they so to talk about, would you say like,
yeah, they are.
I mean not
not
exclusively.
all of them. Like the ones that have lower preference for extroverted feeling are not J's, but the ones who have higher preference for extroverted feeling are considered J's.
Yeah. So is that like kind of like a conviction of they know how they feel, and therefore are more able to communicate that?
Not quite, because like extroverted feeling, I found this to be true, is that extroverted feelers can struggle with knowing how they feel. Because if you think about it, if you had that metaphor again of like the glass with the colored liquid,
Yeah.
someone else they keep pouring all their stuff into yours, you start to lose contact with what's actually
So
what
the
your
extroverted
stuff.
feelers know how the room feels or how the people feel.
Right. And they might know how they feel. But
Um,
it's mixed in with everyone else too, so it
and
becomes
then
muddier.
introverted would you say introverted? Oh, in that case, would introverted feelers
Yeah.
only know how they feel?
They may also have a very good sense for how others feel, depending on the situation. But there would always be a very distinct line. Like, this is how I feel. This is how you feel. And the general like thinking is that higher preference introverted feelers know so well how they feel that when they encounter other people that are obviously going through that same thing, it's no problem for them to be empathetic, because they know it so well. They have such a strong understanding of how those feelings feel. So, and an INFJ versus an INFP, an INFJ using extroverted feeling may feel the feelings of another person and not know why they feel those feelings. And it just might be confusing, but they're like, I feel this, I'm crying with this person for some reason. They're struggling emotionally, and I'm feeling that too. Whereas an INFP may not have that kind of visceral reaction, because they're in tune with their own feelings, but they realize what's going on with the other person. They feel that sadness within themselves, and then that motivates them to do something about it, or to help this person, or to be caring or something. So it ends up looking very similar in a lot of cases from an outward standpoint, like if somebody's empathetic, but inwardly an introverted feeler is probably going to have a much better grasp on what they're feeling than an extroverted feeler would. And the extroverted feeler might be a lot more over the top with their feelings, and like way more interactive with the feelings.
Interesting. So would you say that extroverted feelers would probably be more likely to cry at a party?
Publicly, yeah.
Yeah.
Publicly,
Yeah.
probably. Introverted feelers would probably go cry
Go to the
alone.
bathroom.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, an extroverted feeler might not cry publicly in the party, because they know
That it would bring down their feelings.
it could be they're going to bring down the feelings of the group. It could be, I'm going to lose social capital by doing this.
So they'd be more likely to cry at the party if they feel like everyone's sad.
Yes.
And
that it's okay to do it, and that there's
Yeah.
not going to be a social cost of doing
Yeah,
it.
and like the introverted feeler might feel more comfortable crying at the party if no one's crying.
Well, the introverted feeler might cry regardless of what the emotional landscape is going on with the rest of the party, because they're just in their own feelings. So they might just
In my feels.
burst out with their feels, yeah, and then they might make the whole rest of the party go, oh, that's awkward, you know what I mean? Because suddenly
Yeah.
there's this person who's like crying in the middle of the party. So
It's like we're here to have fun.
right, we're here to have fun, not feel, right, or not cry in public. So it's hard to say, you know, like, but I think, but you know, an extroverted feeler might cry at a party because something else happened to them, you know, that no one at the party knows about, or maybe they're feeling something that happened earlier in the day or earlier in the week, and they just are having a hard time processing it, and suddenly it all kind of comes out, you know.
It's interesting.
It's my party. I'll cry if I want to.
It's my.
Well, let's see. We're a little over the hour mark, so let's
wrap this up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Let's So for the viewers at home, I don't know if you're convinced that Adriana or Adriana, how are you pronouncing it? This is, how
Adriana.
Adriana.
How are you pronouncing it? My name is. So. Go ahead and
Are
say
you gonna
it.
edit it out? I don't know. So Adriana. So let's see now. Let's talk
Okay,
about which.
let's finish off
Well,
this.
Let's talk about what type you think you are now. We've just really kind of dug into this, and maybe we can say whether based on these cognitive functions, if you think. If I said that I thought you were an ENTP and we looked at these cognitive functions, if there would be some resonance there. Well,
Yeah.
what were you thinking?
So I will say I resonated with the extroverted intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I have something large to deal with, I deal with it. Like I say, I deal with, like, I put it in a Google Doc. I put it in something that, like, some type of shared document that I make sure that everyone knows and everyone is on board. Everyone agrees.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not.
No, that's
particularly
probably
part of
like
it.
an extroverted feeler thing. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, you're checking in with everybody. You want to make sure everybody's.
And so, what would you say about introverted sensing? So I noticed that's also on my chart.
Yes. Introverted sensing.
It's just a bit, but
Yeah. Well, so we'll finish it with the introverted sensing, versus extroverted sensing, I guess. Right. Extroverted sensors. I think we've talked about this a little bit too, actually. I think it's weird, but extroverted sensors, I think, live in slices of time almost. It's like they're aware of the now, kind of, and then they drop it, and then they go to the next moment, and then they're aware of the now, and then they drop it. And I think introverted sensors rely on this almost continuity, this through line of continuity of their entire life, and they can see the progression of things sequentially, and then can sort of improvise in the now based on all the things they've experienced from a sensory standpoint in the past, and almost remix it, kind of. Whereas extroverted sensors seem to be much more, let's say, physical improvisation.
So would you say introverted sensors are more likely to relive the time that they called their teacher mom?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and maybe not be happy about that. Like,
yeah,
when you
and
think
like
about
judge
that.
themselves for it,
Yes.
like it's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think introverted sensors, from my experience of talking to them, like the ones I've talked to, I've seen very good at jumping back into a past experience and reliving it as if it was happening like right now.
God,
And
I've
for
done
me,
that a
that's
couple times
hard.
Today.
Yeah, so that is a difference between introverted sensors and extroverted sensors. Because extroverted sensors, it's almost like the sensory experiences are disposable. That's the way I would put it. It's like it flows through them almost, and it's like
They're like a good computer.
maybe I don't know. do computers just throw away?
I'm a
I
bad
guess so.
computer.
Computers just throw away.
Well, I mean, it's like would you want it stored, like every single, like
every tick,
like
right?
every like bit of video, every
Right.
like, like everything that's ever passed through your webcam.
Right. It doesn't have it doesn't have
Significance.
storage of every frame that's ever come across the screen, and I mean, unless you're being like hacked or something. But like, yeah, sure. And that's not to say that an introverted sensor preferring person is going to remember everything that they've ever been through or things. But what it means, I think, is that their file cabinet is very well accessed. They've accessed it many times to look back at that stuff for whatever reason, for this reason or that reason. So because you've spent so much time, if you prefer introverted sensing, because you've spent so much time looking back through that file cabinet, you're probably very good at it. Your brain probably can do it.
The
really
weirdest thing
well.
is that out of all of them, and I know it's just a small bubble there, but I feel like that's one of the ones that actually resonates with me the most. Is that little, like, it doesn't happen very much, right?
Right.
But when it does, I feel sorry for ISTJs.
Well, here's the funny thing about it. If you prefer a certain cognitive function
You're
more highly, well, think about it like if I'm a more physical person and you like toss a ball at me, I'm just gonna be like, catch it, no problem. You know what I mean? Because that's just my normal instinct. So if you ask an ISTJ, yeah, can you tell me, what happened last week when you were going to get your car changed, oil changed? And the ISTJ is like, yeah, well, I went over to the oil place and I went up to the guy and said I wanted to get my oil changed, and then about half an hour later he came back and said, yeah, actually, we found a problem with it, in your cabin air filter, blah blah blah. And like an ISTJ is just living in that world so much that it's not a problem for them.
It doesn't immediately jump to like.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because they're using it so often that it actually just becomes a very primary way that they're solving problems in life. And they're just using that experience. They're building up upon that experience to make better decisions in the future, because they say, well, they went to the auto mechanic. The ISTJ is telling you the story about them going to the auto mechanic, and while they tell you that story, then the mechanic said, "Oh, it was the cabin air filter." But you know what? I've owned four or five cars before already. I've already changed the cabin air filter. I knew exactly what the problem was. So I told the mechanic, "Don't worry about it." And then when I left, I went home and went in my garage and I tinkered around and fixed it, because like they're living so much in their experiences. They've done so many different things, and they can remember those things really well, and they can build on those experiences. And next thing you know, they're very good at things just naturally, because they've just been living and they can remember those things. So for them, it's not like going into a dark place. They probably can go into those dark places, but for them, it's just like, that's just how I live my life. Like, that's just how I operate,
Interesting.
Yeah.
To finish this off,
Okay.
Since we've got all my 4 bubbles down.
Yeah, 4 bubbles.
How do you think? And you notice this is going.
Yeah, that's fine.
Type battles.
Sure.
How do you think who do you think the best type to destroy me physically, mentally, and emotionally is? Let me know who I have to avoid.
Physically, you'd still have to face with the strong extroverted sensor preference characters, ESTP and stuff.
Would you say I could even fear my own fellow ENTPs to attack me?
I don't think so. I think for an ENTP to physically attack you, they'd have to believe strongly that it's worth doing. And they might not be convinced, unless I can see where an ENTP would come to the defense of someone else because of the extroverted feeling. And I think they would, if somebody was being bullied, I think an ENTP would, but they would probably use their words to destroy the bully and try to tear down the bully's, mental processes and get them thinking about something else.
Yeah, they'd be like the cool guy in the movie that helps the nerd, being like, "Hey, stop that."
For sure. So that's the physical, right? What were the other? There's the mental.
Who would mentally
destroy an ENTP?
Wait, who was gonna physically destroy me though?
I think it would still be the STPs probably.
STPs.
Yeah, just because.
Let me take a look at these guys.
They would they would be more ready
So
to fight.
extroverted sensing.
Yeah, extroverted sensing gives you a strong acuity in physicality. It means you're very in tune with the now, the here and now, and what's going on right now. And people who prefer extroverted sensing tend to have, a lot of your like stunt actors in Hollywood prefer extroverted sensing, and like action stars and actors, and boxers and fighters and race car drivers and people who have to think really fast. They use their intuition constantly, but there's the physicality that's the big part of what they're doing, and those are the kinds of people who would be the most dangerous to fight, probably because they, at any given point, you might slip into your mind, and that's when they'll take you down, because they're in their bodies and they're ready to go at any given point.
Yeah, I can't bullet time like Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah, the extroverted sensing preference types are going to bullet time a lot. Now, so as far as intellectually, which ones could destroy an ENTP intellectually? It probably would only be like an INTP, honestly, because INTPs maybe would be the only ones that would be able to dismantle the argument of an ENTP to a satisfactory level and make you feel ashamed that you ever came up with that argument.
I'm the debater.
I know, and you will try to debate, but INTPs have like relentless logic. I mean, Einstein was an INTP. They're thinking all the time. They're very smart. They're very good on their feet. And I'm just saying, if there's any type that could come up with a good counter argument to an ENTP, it probably would be an INTP.
I'll get me and my boys to come bully you like we did Tess.
And then what was the last one? Emotional, right?
Yeah.
Which type could emotionally?
Who would emotionally fuck me up? Because I mean, I'm an extroverted thinker. All they would have to do is pollute my pool, right?
Oh, you mean the extroverted feeling?
Feeler.
Yeah. Well, no, but they're bullying you though, right? Yeah. So I mean, I think the way that a bully can bully an extroverted feeler in a big way is to impact their social capital, their social credibility. So if somebody could get their group to alienate you and to make you feel disconnected from the rest of the group, like a Mean Girls kind of way, yeah, exactly. That would ruin you, because you'd be like, I now feel disconnected from the rest of the group, basically, right? This person cut me off or influenced the group in such a way that they broke me apart from my crew. Wouldn't that hurt you? That would pull you apart, wouldn't it? Oh no, don't cry. So yeah, but that's how I think a bully could get into an extroverted feeler, me included. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, if somebody is able to isolate an extroverted feeler and get them away from the other people that they care about, that's how an extroverted feeler would be the most vulnerable, I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Too much sense.
Too much sense. Do you feel satisfied by everything we talked about in this video?
Yeah, I feel like that's a good place to end it.
A good place to end it?
The video doesn't end until someone cries. This is type battles.
I'm here for you. Look, a couple of extroverted feelers, right? Like, I'm here for you. It's gonna be okay.
I want to end the video by saying, don't take this personally. We're just saying who would personally beat us up. If you think you could beat us up too, make sure to let us know why.
This was her idea.
This was also made up on the spot.
Yeah.
So if you like type battles.
So I normally come up with my videos beforehand, unless it's a typing video, and you're just like, no, let's just show up and do it. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And so I trusted that you would, and you did. You came up with lots of great questions. So I'm glad we made it through this video. So, all right, thanks for watching, friends.
This was Dan. I'm Adriana, and Bye.
Subscribe. Hit the subscribe
Yeah,
button.
there's don't hit the bell.
No, hit the bell too.
You'll probably unsubscribe.
No, don't unsubscribe. Hit the bell. Hit the subscribe.
Yeah, hit the bell.
Hit the thumbs up.
Hit. Don't hit me.
No, no. Don't hit the closest extroverted feeling in your life. That would be sad.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Buenas noches.